it's funny, right? When you have conversations with people, and you can tell there's two types of conversations. One where two people are talking and exchanging ideas and the conversation's flowing, and one where people are just waiting to speak. Do you know what I mean?
More compliments today, you know. More compliments.
These
Where's the compliment day,
these
innit?
observations.
No, I'll take them as compliments, man. Don't let your fleeting comments, don't downplay your comments.
Dealing with stress and anxiety and anger and all those kind of things. Women turn to shopping and food mainly, is what the book says. So women turn to shopping and food, and then men turn to alcohol and drugs mainly.
You set yourself a goal of getting a B. Your first exam score is worth 30%, but your result has come back as a D. It's now a week after the result. What do you do?
It's a hard question. What's my options?
Welcome to The Power of Pages, where we review books that ignite your mind,
elevate your life,
and drive your ambition. And I go by Ty.
I'm Mr. Fly.
And this episode, we are reviewing Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. And I guess I wanted to start off... Actually, I don't know where I wanted to start off.
Let me start. Before we do start, I just want to direct everyone to try and buy this book, support this book from Committing Arts. It's poetry for Grenfell. So we all know the Grenfell tragedy was 8 years ago on the 14th of June. Obviously, everyone in the Ladbroke Grove, North Kent area has been affected. So Committing Arts, they're a great community organisation, and they've written a lot of, it's a collection of poems by young people from the area about their feelings about it. You can buy it from Waterstones. You can also buy it from Foyles, the Design Museum, Mosaic Rooms, and from committingarts.com. Tyler will put a link in the description. If you don't want to buy it, you just want to read it or go and collect, have a read, look through it, you can get it from the RBKC libraries and the National Library in South Bank.
Thanks for sharing. Important book and important memory to mention. So let's come on to Emotional Intelligence. It was a book I picked, and I think I picked it because I wanted to improve emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
I thought, how can I... Give me the play, man. I want to improve my emotional intelligence. Give me the play. And I don't know if I got the play. I got some really interesting facts and information and understanding, actually, about emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, step one, step two, but that's not what I got.
Yeah. I think emotional intelligence is something that's vital, I think, to like in your day-to-day life, whether that be at work, with your friends, relationships, whatever. I think business, emotional intelligence is vitally important. And I was kind of hoping, I thought as well it'd be a bit of I thought it'd be a little bit more theoretical, maybe, not so like literal and stats. It's very science and it's very stat driven and very study driven, which isn't a bad thing. It's just not what I expected. That being said, it does give a good insight into emotional intelligence, but the read was challenging, I think, from my personal opinion.
Okay.
I don't know about yourself.
We'll come on to difficulty rating and stuff later on. And I guess he starts off by saying, emotions are essential for survival. We have two minds, our emotional mind and our rational mind. And the brain is complex to be able to understand all the complexities around feelings and reactions. And I guess the book kind of talks about the difference between, or in some parts of it, the difference between our emotional reactions to certain circumstances and then our, what's the other word I just said? Our rational reactions to situations, and how our emotions can overpower our rational mind in certain situations. And some of the examples the book gives are quite dark, I would probably say, or quite...
Do you mean at the beginning of the book?
Yeah,
I think it needs to be extreme to get the point across, to kind of drive the point home.
Yeah, okay.
Because like you said, the emotions are like, it's your impulse.
Yeah.
That's how we define it, or the author defines it, like, it's your impulse to act.
Yeah.
So, and in society, acting off impulse is not really going to get you that far. You have to have that rational thought process. So, and you have to be aware of that. And you know, that's later in the book. But yeah, definitely the examples that they give. I know there was one about there was a few, but there was some dark ones. I'm not going to talk about the dark ones. Maybe you can if you want to. But there was like one where I think two people were walking past the canal, and they saw like a baby or a child drop in the water, and then the guy just, you know, he just jumped in the water, and in that instance, that was his empathy, that was his, you know, his emotion just took over. He didn't stop and think, oh, let me take my phone out of my pocket. At one moment, let me just put my wallet. He's just seen someone in need that needs help. He's in there before he even got to think about it, and that's, you know, your fight or flight. You know, that's what it talks. It's very science heavy. It talks about the brain functions, like the amygdala and things like that. And you know, in that instance, that person's emotions saved the life of that child. You see what I mean? So yeah, there's a few other examples as well.
Yeah, I mean, the example I wrote down was a darker one, I'm still going to share it because he starts off by saying our emotional responses can be emergency responses. We can lose it as a defense mechanism. And he talks about a burglar going into a house basically to burgle the house. The guy is obviously in need, and he burgles the house, and there's two women in the house, and he ties them up, you know, obviously not good, and he was going to leave them just tied up. So he was on his way out, according to the story. I might be, you know, I'm paraphrasing here. But then one of the women said that she was going to remember his face. Like, I'm going to remember your face. I'm going to remember your face. You're not going to get away with it. So as soon as he heard that, he panicked. And
that was his emotional response.
Yes. His rational response was, okay, I'm tying them up. I need this to make money or whatever. That's his brain thinking, whether we agree or not. Obviously, we don't agree. But
we don't agree.
You know, whether
for the record, I do not agree.
But he had a rational process to burgling the house, right? He wasn't planning to go in and cause harm or damage. He just wanted to steal for his need.
Whatever his need is,
But the emotional response was, I've seen your face. You're never getting away with this. Now it's panic. So he took their lives. He lost it and took their lives. And the book, like I said, gives some extreme examples, and that's one of the extreme examples where, you know, our emotions can...
He calls it emotional hijacking.
Yes.
So that's what happened in that moment. Like, his emotions hijacked his actions, because he had a plan, and the plan was not to commit murder. The plan was just to commit a robbery. However, emotionally, he got emotionally hijacked because of what the lady said. It triggered that in him, and he ended up committing a double murder. You see what I mean? So that's a very extreme example, of course. But that's kind of, you know, for example, you can have a discussion with someone, and in your mind you think, all right, I'm going to talk to this person about these topics or this situation. They may say something that triggers something emotionally, and you might say something that you never even intended to say as an emotional response, and then now the conversation's just gone totally gone left.
He says the amygdala acts as a storehouse of emotional memory, and without it, we're stripped of personal meaning. It allows impulse feelings to override rational feelings. So basically the amygdala part of the brain. What did you think of the chapter when smart is dumb? I don't know if you made any notes.
No, I did. I know he spoke about the fact, emotional intelligence is like a new concept. I don't know when this book was written, but it's not something, I know definitely growing up, it wasn't a word that I heard, it wasn't a phrase that I'd heard. It's definitely, I don't want to put a time stamp on it, but it is kind of new sort of thinking. And it shows that there's two sides of, you know, as we are aware of these things, like there's two sides. You've got your logical brain and your rational brain, you've got emotional brain, you see what I mean, and it's irrational at times. So I think it's true, because just because something is like, it says things about like people with high IQ aren't necessarily emotionally intelligent. I've seen, like from my own personal experience, I've seen people, and I know people that are very emotionally intelligent. They know exactly what to say, when to say it, they know how to respond, and they've got really far. And they might actually be good at it. I used to work with a person that was not good at their job at all, terrible at their job, but they were so emotionally, their emotional intelligence was off the Richter scale. They knew they were just good with people, good talking to people, good listener, jokes, funny, everything you know, all of that. So people liked them. Do you see what I mean? And then that person, they no longer work for for that place, then I've got a big job. I'm not going to say where, because I don't want it to be too, but they're doing well for themselves. So that's it.
Yeah.
And I know that person wasn't, I didn't really rate that person at their job personally. Do you know what I mean? Because I was like, wow, you're just out here hustling.
Yeah.
Emotionally hustling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but no,
yeah.
but to be fair, you know what, that being said, that's what you need. If that's what you know, if that's something you need, like the emotional intelligence, like he's obviously skilled at that. So yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? What did you think about that chapter?
Yeah, I mean, academic intelligence has little to do with emotional life.
Yeah.
That's what it says. And it gave another example, again, quite a dark example of a student who was top of his class, super smart, like, so he said, Jason, he went to private school, he graduated with top marks, but basically his teacher didn't give him top marks in one exam, so he harmed him with a knife. Yeah. Like, imagine that. You didn't get top, your teacher's not giving you top marks, so let me harm you.
What does that say to you?
That his emotional intelligence is low, because he obviously had from the book, he's saying that he got top marks in everything else. He was book smart. But for him to harm a teacher just because he didn't get top marks, that shows that his emotional intelligence is low.
He's lacking in some areas.
Lacking.
He's lacking in some areas.
So he said, how could someone with high intelligence do something so dumb? But just quickly, he was found innocent and temporarily insane, like from the verdict of whatever case that he went through. But I just thought,
must have some good lawyers.
Yeah.
No, just on that. So there was a definition of emotional intelligence. So I thought, and I'm not going to go into the breakdowns of it, but I'll just know there's 5 key points that is saying to be what emotional intelligence is.
Yeah.
One, did you have them written down as well?
Yeah.
Do you want to do one for one then?
All right, go on.
Yeah, I'll do the first one. So 1, knowing one's emotions, also known as self-awareness. I think these are things that you can, like, this is important because if you're aware of what it takes to be emotionally intelligent, you can increase your emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah.
So if you can try and be more self-aware, that's a win, right?
Yeah. So the first point leads on nicely to the second point. So the first point, knowing oneself, knowing emotions. And the second point is being able to manage those emotions. All right, cool. First, I know the emotions. How can I manage those emotions? If you can then manage them, that's the next point he's got here of being emotionally intelligent.
I know myself definitely. Sometimes we've definitely had these conversations, like when something happens and I don't know how I feel, when I'm trying to still figure out how I feel, I'm not going to respond until I'm clear whether I'm angry or whether I don't really care or how I feel about it. Do you see what I mean? So I try and find out how I feel, because that's obviously gonna temper my response. So I might not respond in that moment, but the response is gonna come, but only once I'm aware of like how I feel, so I can as well, so I can articulate it properly as well. Do you see what I mean? So would you say you're self-aware?
For the most part, yeah, I would, and I think you are too.
Yeah, you're very measured. I've never you're one of the most measured people I know. To be fair, you definitely. I'm not going to ask you if you think you manage your emotions well, because I know you do. So yeah.
Thank you for that compliment.
It's more of an observation.
Oh, it's not a compliment. Just a fleeting comment.
So number 3, motivating oneself. Again, I think that's important for so many reasons, but you need to be able to motivate yourself for various reasons. Again, this is why I think you picked the book, because you're aware of how important emotional intelligence actually is. Because you could be going for a job interview. You could be trying to this could be a girl that you like, and you got to motivate yourself to ask her on that date or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Or motivate yourself. You might want to say something that you know the other person's not going to want to hear, but you don't have to motivate yourself in order to say that. And again, the first 2 points, number 1 and number 2, also need to be present in your mind for when you begin to motivate yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it flows nicely. Knowing yourself, managing your emotions, and then being able to motivate yourself based on those emotions. So I know I'm feeling scared, for example, but I still need to motivate myself to take action.
Yes.
Or whatever it is.
Yes.
And then the 4th one is recognizing emotions in others. So being aware of the emotions that other people may be experiencing, so that you don't say the wrong thing or, act in an inappropriate way. You got to be able to read the room. I think that's probably the best.
Key.
Yeah.
I think that's so key. It's funny, right? When you have conversations with people, and you can tell there's two types of conversations. One where two people are talking and exchanging ideas and the conversation's flowing, and one where people are just waiting to speak. Do you see what I mean? So it's like, it's very, things that I laugh about this with my wife all the time. Like, things like that I enjoy like just watching, observing, or when I'm in a conversation, I'll be like, this is one of those kind of conversations. But again, understanding, like recognizing in other people, because you can provide comfort to someone if they need it. Yeah. You can provide encouragement to someone if they need it all the time. Or you can be like, all right, now's not the time. That's a really underrated skill, I think, understanding. But again, I think it comes from you understanding yourself, because then you can recognize emotions, then you can maybe recognize it. It'll make it easier for you to recognize in other people as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then the fifth point?
Handling relationships. Again, all flows, because if you're able to understand how people are feeling, or again, loads of different examples, handling those relationships will handle accordingly. So yeah, I think that's like, that's not the power of the pages, but that's a very powerful section of this book. Mm-hmm. And I think the book's got a lot of information in it. But if I'm going to hold on to any piece of information, it will be those, and it was done by, this was defined by Salovoy and John Mayer. I don't know who they are, but they done this definition of emotional intelligence. So yeah, that's quite key.
I think those 5 key points are really important. And, the last one, handling relationships, communication is part of that. And I wanted to just plug episode 45, because if you haven't watched episode 45, Difficult Conversations. Yeah. That book, both of us rated it our number 1 book of the year last year. Just go back and watch that book. I'll put the card up in the screen or whatever.
I bought that book for about 3 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big book.
Yeah. So and this book actually talks about the relationship with a wife and communicating, and it gave some good gems. Mm-hmm. But when I was reading it, I was just like, just read Difficult Conversations. Like, that's the book that you need for any communication and even relationship management. Yeah. Not just with your wife, but with everyone. Yeah. It's
relationships though, isn't it? Like different types. I think the next chapter, obviously chapter 5, Passion Slave. There's a lot in there, but the key part that I liked in there when it talks about changing your state essentially. So about like exercise, how exercise can raise your mood if you're angry or stressed or whatnot, because exercise changes your physiological state. It then has a knock-on effect and will change your mood, and as a byproduct of that. So these are small things. I feel like the book could have been written in different ways. Yeah. Where because I know what I definitely had to do was read through everything and try and pick out the things that can easily be kind of passed on or broken down in an easier way to digest. But there's a lot of good information there, and that was one of the keys information as what we just spoke about. Yeah,
and it kind of said gave you tips in that section of how to handle anger. It's like, don't suppress it, but don't act on it. Yeah. So even those 5 points, using that for anger situation could be useful. And it talks about monitor your cues for anxiety, learn situations that trigger worry, and use relaxation methods to apply in the moment. But these are all things that you have to learn and practice over time. So I said, at the beginning, it wasn't giving you the play. And I think it does give you the play certain times, but it's kind of like scattered and
it's just hard to
find. Like, I think off of this book, you could most probably write a shorter book giving you the play of, try these things to build your emotional intelligence.
What I did like what I found interesting is, again, in that same chapter, that with dealing with stress and anxiety and anger and all those kind of things, women turn to shopping and food mainly, is what the book says. So women turn to shopping and food, and then men turn to alcohol and drugs mainly. And this is like, it's quite telling, because men seem to be quite extreme, like on all topics. I mean, look, things like the suicide rate and stuff like that in men are way higher. Sorry to go there, and a lot of that is because men do more violent types. Do you see what I mean? So this is just, that was kind of like triggered that thought in my mind. I said, okay, because men tend to go more to the extreme of things. And I think this is why, going back to self-awareness, being aware that, okay, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling how I'm feeling. I need to do something about it. I need to change my state. I need to go and speak to somebody. I need to stop interacting with this person and just stop going to these places. If you're aware of those sort of things, or even able to talk about it or recognize it yourself first, then you can start to do something about it. Whereas if you just are unaware, you just keep going until you get to a point where you feel helpless. Do you see what I mean?
That triggered a thought in my mind about we'll come onto it a bit later, but like the different groups that people have to support each other and they live longer, essentially. But I'll give more context on that later, because I wanted to stick in chronological order, without jumping around too much, because this was quite good in terms of, I mean, the viewers probably will have seen this. Have you seen on social media where they give the kids the challenges of the marshmallow test?
No, but I've seen it.
Oh, that's what. Yeah,
not on social.
You've
I'm
seen
aware
it.
of it. I'm aware.
So for those that don't know, a child is given a test. You know, maybe they're 4 years or around 4 years or slightly older, and basically there's a marshmallow on the table and says, "Look, if you don't eat that marshmallow, I will give you 2 marshmallows. I'm just gonna go and run an errand. I'm just gonna do something quickly." So if the child sat there with the marshmallow in front of them and didn't touch it, then the parent would give them a second marshmallow. But if the child sat there and just ate it, then the parent wouldn't give them a second marshmallow. And what was interesting was the studies around this for later life.
Yeah.
Because it said those who resisted temptation at 4 were more socially competent, personally effective, self-assertive, and better able to cope with frustrations in life as adults. They grew up able to delay gratification in pursuit of their goals, but those who grabbed the marshmallows had fewer of these qualities. And I thought that was quite interesting, in terms of like delayed gratification and stuff, because I think, I don't know about you, but for me, definitely, for my personal experience growing up, there were certain things I had to wait to get. Like if there was a pair of trainers or something, I couldn't just go and buy trainers. No. It's like, all right, I need to go and earn some money or wait for mum to get paid or whatever it is. And I think all of those things have contributed to, you know, the successes that I've had as an adult. But you don't think about those small things until you read something like this that highlights, oh, actually, studies clearly show that delayed gratification can help you later on in life.
No, I think, well, it shows there's a lot of good qualities there, because there's patience, do you see what I mean? And then also kind of following instructions to some degree, and also thinking forward. Do you see what I mean? Like, okay, well, I can have 1 now or I can have 2 later. But again, then you need a lot of patience, and there's a very much an internal battle going on within the child or the young person at that time or whatnot. So yeah, I think, and if those qualities can be, if you can maintain that and it'll just grow, and you know, like you said with the trainers, you know, you get to an age where, all right, well, I have to wait to that. Because some people, going back to the beginning example you gave of the person robbing the house, just for example, maybe they could have, instead of trying to do a robbery, they might have wanted whatever they wanted right then and there, as opposed to maybe they could have waited and worked or tried to find a different way, which wouldn't get it them in that moment. However, it would get it they'd get it later on down the line. But yeah, no, look, those studies are always interesting, and it's like, it's weird because the amount of kids they study and they all live different lives and and then they find these traits. So it's interesting. It's interesting the outcomes.
What I also found was foul moods equals foul thinking. The ability of our mood, how that impacts our ability to think. Studies found that people who watched funny bloopers on television had better ability to solve puzzles. They were more likely to see creative solutions in comparison to those who watched a film on maths or just exercised.
That's interesting.
So when you're in a better mood, your brain is, or studies show that your brain is in a better mindset to tackle whatever challenges or puzzles specifically for this study. So Like, the book has lots of interesting studies.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I think, that's interesting. I'm trying to wonder why. I'm trying to work out why.
Well, I just think when you're in a good mood, maybe you're more optimistic.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. And it says something about optimism in here. I haven't got that note. But there was a chapter that, no.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't remember. But I know there's a thing about optimism. What was it about hope that you're talking about?
Yeah, hope was similar to, optimistic. Basically, you set yourself a goal of getting a B. Your first exam, well, this is a question to the audience, right? And also to you. Okay. You set yourself a goal of getting a B. Your first exam score is worth 30%, but your result has come back as a D. It's now a week after the result. Mm-hmm. What do you do? So you set yourself a goal of getting a B. You've got a D. It's 30% of your mark. It's been a week now since you got that result. What do you do?
It's a hard question. What's my options?
That is a hard question.
I don't know. What's my
in relation
can
to
I
that
retake
exam?
it? Can I?
In relation to that exam, for your next exams.
I'll revise for my next one. I don't know. Yes.
All right. So 30% of your marks gone. You've got 70% that you could still.
I can still get. Yeah. I work.
You work.
Yeah, I've revised. Yeah.
You got to revise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your answer is right. Cool. Revise and study. Yeah. Cool. Well,
what other answer could there be?
Oh, it is what it is. I'll just carry on. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, okay. All right.
Not everyone's going to be like,
No, but you have to do the test, right? The test is coming. You're doing the test. The next test, the other 70% is still on the table, right?
Yes.
So you're either going to stop or you're going to carry on working towards your grade.
You're still going to work on towards your grade.
Okay.
Like, you've still got to work. But some people are like, I have to work hard to make sure that I make up. Yeah. Or some just carry on working as normal. Or do you get what I mean? The motivation, like, are you going to use that?
It doesn't impact their thinking going forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So basically, it says, students with high hope set themselves higher goals and know how to work hard to attain them. When you compare students of equivalent intellectual aptitude on their academic achievements, what sets them apart is hope. Basically, believing that you have both the will and the way to accomplish your goals, whatever that may be. So believing that you can achieve it makes you then study harder, work harder, and get it.
Yeah.
And that sets students apart. Hope.
What would you do?
Yeah, study. I mean, I'll give a personal insight.
Go for it.
In my first year of college, I failed. This was my example, actually. I aimed for B's.
Yeah.
I was like, B's was achievable. I got D's, bare D's.
Yeah.
In PE, business.
Yeah.
My second year, I worked my nuts off.
Yeah.
And brought them all up to B's.
Serious?
Yeah, it's like, but if I didn't have that D, like that D got me, it was like, raw.
Wake up call, innit?
Yeah, it was like, raw, I can't go to uni with these results, or like I can't progress. So the second year was like intense because I resat the first year in my second year while also doing my second year.
Oh, wow.
So it's like I did 2 years in one. Wow. But second year of college, I was on it because.
Was that? Why did you do that?
I mean, this was a long time ago now, so I can't remember specifically. But I remember thinking that was like I want to go uni, innit? So I knew I couldn't go uni with these, or not the uni that you I was looking to go to. So
no, that's big because that says a lot about you, about your character. And I think because like you said, all right, now I see it now. I see the two choices now. Because the choice one, you could have been like, well, boy, it is what it is, isn't it? Like, I get you're gonna change whatever your ambition was. You will change it now. To line up with, but the way you saw yourself, those D's weren't you.
Yeah.
So you was like, I need to get to where I need to be.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I believed that I could get there.
Yeah. No, it said optimism is a great motivator. That was the bit that I was trying to find. Yeah, but I mean the same thing because you're optimistic.
Yeah.
That you could get, like, you didn't write it off and be like, oh man, it's done, like it's finished. You was like, no, I'm gonna turn this around, and that's like, these are lessons that you learn in sport. These are lessons you learn in the classroom. These are, you can't, and I guess it just boils down to not giving up. Do you know what I mean? That's like a simple way to say it. But yeah, that's interesting.
Just say, Jake, more compliments today, you know. More compliments.
These
Where's the
observations,
compliment day,
these
innit?
observations.
No, I'll take them as compliments, man. Don't let your fleeting comments, don't downplay your comments. Compliments, yeah? Compliment tired day.
No, big up. But no, that's big still. The chapter that I liked, jumping quite ahead, was chapter 10, managing with the heart.
Okay.
Because, you know, I mean, leadership is something I'm really interested in. And I like this. This and maybe this chapter 10 and chapter 11 were maybe my favourite two chapters. But it says leadership is not domination, but the art of persuading people to work towards a common goal. And I really like that. And I think you need to be, obviously the person that wrote that is very emotionally intelligent to understand that, because a lot of times, it's funny, I was having a conversation with someone and they were like to me, oh yeah, like you're not, like, you're the top of the tree, like regarding FFLY Youth, like you don't have to answer to no one, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, I'm accountable to all the staff. Yeah. I'm accountable to the community. I'm accountable to the trustees. I'm accountable to you. I'm accountable. Like, do you understand that? I've got there's a lot of people that I work for. A lot of people. It's not. You know what I mean, so being at the top isn't like. Look at it this way. Simple football team. Who gets if the team has a bad season? Who gets sacked? The manager's gone. The manager's gone. And you know what I mean? And even to be fair, he's not even the top of the tree, because you've got to think. But you get the point I'm making. He's very high up. If the manager gets sacked, and women's football too, if the team's not doing well, the manager's going. For various reasons, but it's because they're accountable. So that manager needs to realise that it's not about leading with the iron fist, especially the way the world is now. People don't really respond to that as well. There is a time where maybe you have to be a bit firm, but overall, you're not going to get the response you want. So yeah, that's a very emotionally intelligent viewpoint.
And it gave the play here for the art of critique.
Yes, it did.
In that section.
It did.
Which
I got it. We can do it. The artful critique. But before we go into that, so another part I was going to say was about speaking and getting feedback from your team, getting feedback from people around you, because it said without feedback, people are in the dark. They have no idea how they stand with their boss, their peers, on in terms of what is expected of them. That was, for me, definitely when I was working before, I like clarity. Like, and even when we do stuff, you know, I'm like, what do I need to do? Like, no, because I want to know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
what's my tick box?
Yeah,
what do I have to tick
what
off?
do I have to do? You know, but there's a lot to that. It's because I trust you to do what you're going to do, for one. So I know I don't need to worry about what you're going to do. And the same thing within a working situation as well. It's like, when I used to work, it's like, even with football, what's my job? Then I'll do that because I trust everyone else. Do you know what I mean? Within work, it's like, I need to know, am I performing well? Am I not performing well? I need to understand why, and I try and be as clear with people as possible with that. But regarding on the artful critique, it's you know, focus on what the person has done. Sorry, that's something else. But yeah, the artful critique. Do you want to go into?
Yeah. So when critiquing someone, you know, be specific.
Yep.
It demoralizes people to know they are doing something wrong without the specifics. Yeah. So what are they doing wrong? You know, exactly. Give the actual specifics. Yeah. But then following on from that is offer a solution. Yeah. The critique should include suggestions to improve. Yep. And be present. Critiques are most effective face to face. Yep. And lastly, be sensitive. Yeah. Be attuned to what you say and how you say it. I think that's the key thing. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Tone of voice, delivery, like that all plays a factor.
I think that's why, for me as a rule, important things I will unless I have no other option, anything that's really important, I'm not going to text you or WhatsApp you or email you. I'm not going to write it down. If at minimum, I'll talk to you on the phone about it, or worse, it's face to face, because context and tone, all those things you just spoke about, are lost in written form. There's a funny skit online, Key and Peele comedians, and like basically they're sending each other texts, but one's reading it with a negative sort of thing, and the other's reading it from like, so it's like, what do you mean? And he's like, oh, what do you mean? And he's like, what do you mean? Like, it's funny anyway. But that's where it's like the same words. Depends, so you're reading it from your mindset. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, and I think with that, like being present, you know, it's very important, because it shows how important it is that the person's kind of made that time to either pick up the phone and call you or to come and see you face to face. It shows that, I'm of value of this. I'm enough value that they've come and sat. They want to see me face to face and talk about this. So you already kind of get some. That's already a positive. That's what I mean. And again, all of this stuff, going back to the five understandings of emotional intelligence. Everything else, I think, feeds off that. I think that's the nucleus of all of these things. And then everything else like this kind of feed off that, because again, it's the self-awareness, it's the understanding and reading others, because in that conversation, being present with them, you can understand of what you said. So you might want to make a point, you might have to critique, it's critique, right? So you're critiquing someone, but once you've made your point, you don't have to then keep digging them that hole. You can be like, look, this is it, but now this is how we fix it. You know, see what I mean?
You know, definitely, man. I mean, the book has a lot, man, and I touched on briefly the groups or the women's groups, and I want to touch on something quickly before we come on to our difficulty and star rating. The healing power of emotional support.
Yeah.
And basically, Dr. David Spiegel found that women with advanced breast cancer who went to weekly meetings with others survived twice as long as women with the same disease who faced it on their own. So just by going to weekly meetings with other people, you can live twice as long. It said women who attended groups lived for 37 additional months on average. Women who didn't attend lived for 19 additional months on average, which I thought was crazy. And it gives another study about groups and stuff like that as well, which we're not going to go into. Very quickly, the power of the pages.
The power. I've got a few, you know what? Through this closing this conversation, I've changed it. I've changed it. It's got to be. No, it has to be. As just a quick aside, this was going to be my power of the pages, but it's no longer. It's just about talking about changing your state, about exercise, and this exercise works well because it changes the physiological state the mood evokes. Depression is a low arousal state, and aerobics pitches the body into a high arousal state. So that's very important. That was my power of the pages. However, the actual power of the pages for me is the understanding of what emotional intelligence is, what we went through, the 5 points. I think if you can get, the definition of emotional intelligence, we went through it, it's at the beginning of the show. That's the actual power of the pages for me. Yeah,
okay. I mean, for me, there was a lot of power in this, man. There's a lot of gems in here, and talking to you has made me revisit those gems. But I think I really liked the thought around hope, you know, hoping, but also with action, you know, hoping and believing that how that positive mind can actually help with future situations. And I mean, we saw there with the breast cancer example, and there's other examples about being positive, that men have lived longer. We're not going to go into it. Read the book. But let's go on to our star rating and difficulty rating. Now, well, I'm first. My book.
Yeah, go for it.
Firstly, if you joined us on this review, I'm sorry that it was such a long read. I know. Sorry.
No, I need a personal apology.
Yeah, I'm sorry to you too. I apologise.
Accepted.
Star rating. I want to give this a higher score than I've given it.
Wait. Did you do difficulty already? Or are you doing star first?
Oh no, difficulty.
Yeah.
Okay, difficulty first. This was hard, man. Yeah. This was a 4. I give it a 4. This was hard. Yeah, that's it.
I got 5 on it. Bro, this book, oh my.
Yeah, it was a difficult read.
Bro, 5 for me. Because it was, you know what's funny, it's like the person who wrote this book, it's like their emotional intelligence was low. In the sense of like, they didn't understand, the book wasn't engaged. It's weird, man. 5. It's hard.
Yeah.
Hard book,
This book was written by an academic.
Yeah.
They're academic.
Yeah, I can tell.
I can tell.
No, but you know what, saying that, it's got banging, like, a lot of people like it. It's 20, this is like a sort of classic. Reviews. It's cult classic. Yeah, but for me, 5.
Well, we've already spoken about some of the gems. Like, this book has gems, man.
Yeah.
But star rating, I think the difficulty of the book brought down my star rating, because after I read it, I was thankful that I had finished the book, because it was like,
bro, it was preach, fam. Even I was like, I can't wait until this is done. So carry on.
I think I would have stopped reading it if we didn't have to review it.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
So, but it has gems. So I'm just gonna give it a 2.5 because it has gems, man. It's just a hard read. Cool.
So, again, I've been influenced by the conversation. But yeah, no, the book's hard. It's a hard book to read. I'm not going to give it a 2 because that wouldn't be fair. Because if you have the wherewithal and you like the style of reading, it's just not the style of writing. Sorry, it's not my style. It's a 3 for me because it is a good book. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to someone to read, but that's just my personal taste. But I think it's just hard to read, and I'm glad that we've finished it now and the review's over. It's got a 3 from me. Power Pages.
So, as I mentioned, Difficult Conversations, book episode 45. You can watch that on the screen. But our next book is Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley. We're going to be reviewing that next. So, if that's out already by the time you watch this, check it out. And if it's not, read along with us and get that book and join us on the 1 book a month journey. But this is the Power of Pages.
And we review books.